Day 12, Solving Radical Equations. Today we are going to solve more radical equations. Remember, a radical equation contains a variable within a radical. Step number 1 is to isolate your radical. Then you want to eliminate the radical sign by raising both sides of the equation to the appropriate power. Solve the equation and check for extraneous solutions. Remember, your limit on the domain is x has to be greater than or equal to 0. When we solve the equation in example 1, the square root of 2x minus 1 is equal to the square root of x plus 4, we want to square both sides to undo our radical. So we're left with 2x minus 1 equals x plus 4. You then just want to solve for x. The inverse of positive x is minus x. The inverse of negative 1 is plus 1. So we get x is equal to 5. When we look at example 2, we want to isolate first. So the inverse of positive 13 is minus 13. We have the square root of 5n is equal to negative 10. We cannot have the square root of any number equal to a negative, so we have no solution. Looking at example 3, we first want to isolate. If you notice right here, we have a 1/2 power. 1/2, something raised to the 1/2 power is saying the square root of that number. So same thing is true. We want to isolate that first. So we have the quantity of x plus 6 raised to the 1/2 power is equal to 3. If we multiply or raise this to the second power, it would eliminate because 1/2 times 2 over 1 equals 1 whole, and anything to the first power is just itself, x plus 6. 3 squared is 9. The inverse of positive 6 is minus 6, and we get x is equal to 3. So then the next example, example 4, we have something to the 1/3 power. So to undo something to the 1/3 power, we are going to raise it to the 3rd power. 1/3 to the 3rd power is just 1 whole, so we have x plus 5. 3 to the 3rd power is 27. The inverse of plus 5 is minus 5, and we get x is equal to 22. When we look at the next example, we want to undo our radical. So what's underneath our radicals don't match, so we're going to go ahead and undo our radical by squaring both sides. When we square the square root of x minus 12, it is just x minus 12, but when we square 2 minus the quantity or the square root of x, we need to distribute that out 2 times so we don't lose any terms. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative radical of x is negative 2 root x. Negative 2 root x plus the square root of x times the square root of x is the square root of x squared, which undoes that radical. So that actually simplifies to just x. When we combine our like terms, we have 4 radical x's, and we just have plus x at the end. We now can combine our like terms. If I subtract my x, I'm left with negative 12 is equal to 4 minus 4 times the square root of x. These cancel out, these cancel out. The inverse of positive 4 is negative 4. Negative 16 is equal to negative 4 times the quantity or the square root of x. Inverse of multiplication is division. A negative times a negative is a positive 4 is equal to the square root of x. To undo a radical, you square it. 16 is equal to x.